But so many of you probably have Sabbath keeping problems. Like your boss wants you to work on Sabbath, and it's going to be a problem. So I want to tell you two stories about some people that I know that had Sabbath problems, and God really blessed them. One of them was a little Chinese lady from Australia. She was probably 4'10", maybe just real tiny lady. Her name was Hazel, and she came to America to work at Weimar Institute years ago when it first started. Have you heard of Weimar Institute? Anybody? Weimar College in California. Very good school. Wonderful people there. They really love Jesus a lot. If I was to choose a college to go to, I think it would probably be Weimar or Wachita Hills College or Southern College. One of those three. But anyway, this lady was when she was a little girl, her parents became Adventists. And they had a market where they sold many things, but I don't think they had food, but all kinds of gifts and packages and toys and many different things. And the very first year, they had a problem with Sabbath. In Australia, they have an interesting custom, at least they used to. They go shopping on Christmas Eve to buy presents for everybody in the family. And this year it happened to be Sabbath was Christmas Eve. So they prayed about it, said, Lord, you know, if we close, we may not sell anything this year, because much of the things they sell, maybe half of their income comes from that one day. But they said, we're going to trust God. He said to keep the Sabbath. We're going to keep the Sabbath and leave it up to Him. And they put a big sign on the door that says, we will be closed Friday night, sundown, until Saturday evening at 7:30 when the sun goes down. Then we will open our doors and you can buy our things. So they went to church and they prayed and they came home and prayed. And then about 7 o'clock they went to the store to open up, and they saw a long line of people going down the street, all waiting to get into their shop. So at 7:30 they opened the door and the people rushed in. Oh, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. And they rushed in to get what was there. And when they closed the doors that night, there was nothing on any shelf. Everything was sold. He said they never doubted God again about Sabbath keeping. And for all of her life, knew her into her 80s. She was still very faithful Sabbath keeper. And she was a kind of a missionary at Weimar, and in New York they had a health center there. She and her husband volunteered to work there many years. And one other short business story about Sabbath. Quite a few years ago, there was a man who owned three car dealerships. Nissan and Mercedes and one other one I can't remember. And he became an Adventist, and when he became an Adventist, he said, I'm going to have to close my doors on Sabbath. And he had many employees, people that work in the shop to fix the cars, and the salesmen, and many people that were working for him. But he went to New York to talk with the big boss from Mercedes-Benz to tell him, I cannot keep my shop open anymore on Sabbath. And he said, nobody does that. This is impossible. This is the best day to sell cars. And he said, well, I have to do what God tells me to do, so either I will have to give my business to someone else, or you let me do this. So we want you to stay. We like you. You're a good owner of the business. You do well. One of our best franchises, best business. So he said, then you'll let me try? He said, I'm going to close Saturday then. And they said, okay, we'll let you try. But they thought in their mind, it won't last very long. Soon he will be broke and have to sell to someone else. So he went back to his dealerships, and he called his people in, and he said, you know what, I'm convicted about Saturday is the Sabbath, and I want to close my shop, and all the shop will be closed. And all the men and women said, oh no, it's our best day to sell cars. But he said, because some of you are Sunday keepers, I'm a Sabbath keeper, I'm going to do close for 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. And they go, oh no, no, no. She said, we will leave it in God's hand. If he wants us to sell cars, he will bring people Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And so they did that, and pretty soon the car sales went down. No, it went up. They had more sales than they ever had before. Every dealership did better. So the bosses in New York have to say, God is smarter than we are. So when you have Sabbath problems, trust in him. In the book of Revelation, it says God's last day people, his remnant, will have the faith of Jesus and will what? Keep the commandments of God. Who knows which text that is? Revelation Anybody?
210.
แต่ว่าด้านอยู่อ่ะเต้าผู้เราเจริญมีคิดเนี่ยผู้โตรู้เราใส่อยู่อ่ะเราตัวนี้พี่กับ
The remnant people will be a commandment keeping people and have the faith of Jesus.
เอาได้กับตัวนี้พี่กับวันนี้เราหนักใส่ชุด
You know which one it is?
แกติดเนี่ยนั่นแหละ
Toward the end. 22.
ตัวนี้พี่กับวันนี้หนัก
14, 12.
Yeah. Revelation 14, verse 12.
Revelation 14, 12.
ให้รอบเราดูสิลูกสาวชิคกี้
Okay. So God bless you in your trial. It's not easy out there.
นั่นแหละก็ใส่อยู่สู้ๆว่าดูตาไว้เนี่ยนะดูสังกัดตามจะไม่ได้ละเงี้ยว่ะ
Many times I've seen people and they stand up for their truth and they have to lose their job.
แต่ว่าได้กว่าโอ้ได้มาแล้วก็ช่วยเราตามมิตรต่อเขาบอกเราภาษาไหนเนี่ยว่าที่ป้าตาไปตามมาที่ป้าเนี่ย
My wife's great grandparents were in Australia.
แต่ว่าได้ยามาคือป้าโดนเลยเนี่ยโอ้ได้แล้วออสเตรเลีย
And he built carriages with horses would take a carriage.
เอาไว้ที่ว่าได้เลี้ยแล้วว่าได้เลี้ยที่ถือ
When he became an Adventist, it was his brother's company, but his brother said, "No, Saturday is our biggest day for business. If you cannot work Saturday, you must go." Even his own brother.
แต่ว่าได้เนาะจอดาวเนี่ยจอคอมพานีเนาะที่มีแล้วว่าแค่เราว่ามันมีคนละจอเดียวเนี่ยไม่ต้องมาขอได้ว่าละมูบุญว่าดีบ้าหาเราทำมาเอาไว้ดีนี่ที่ว่าดอกบัวพิชาละ
But God had something better for him.
ภาษาไหนเนี่ยก็ใส่อยู่เนี่ยโอ้เราตาตักเลยแล้ววินิจไป
For a few months or a year, he had very little work.
ดอกเพชาลาดอกเนี่ยว่าตาพิธามเอาเจ้า
Their family had to live in a little lean-to. They built a little hut on a hillside.
แต่ว่าเพนเนี่ยฮิบุเขาบัติเราเดี๋ยวบุเขาเราแล้วก็เจ้าก็ไป
And they would shoot birds to eat.
หาเขาทุกคนเราเนี่ยนะล่ะ
But after a while, Mrs. White, Ellen White, heard about this family.
แล้วเล็กที่ก็เนี่ยเอาชินะมีว่าตามเอาชิไว้เนี่ยเนาะน่าหัวเราฮิบุเขาบุ้ยคนเรา
And she said, "I hear there's a man on that mountain over there. Have him come and work for me."
แต่ว่าเนาะกว่ากันเลยน่าหัวว่าฮิบุเขาดูแล้วโอ้เราก็จะว่าบ้านเนี่ยบ้านเราแค่มาเท่าไหร่
So her great-grandfather helped to build Ellen White's house, to paint her house, to add on extra buildings.
เราเพนเนี่ยด้วยเนาะเว้ยว่าเว้ยเนี่ยให้ทีนี้บ่าวเราเอาชิไว้ฮีเราบอกเนี่ยที่ดูเราว่าฮีที่ฟ้า
And when her grandmother was born, Ellen White was there just about to leave in 1900. She held her grandmother in her arms and said a prayer of blessing on grandma.
แต่ว่าเพนี่เนาะเพทุกทุกคนก็ทุกคุยแบบได้สิ่งอะไรก็แค่นี้นะมั้งเอาไว้แต่ว่าเอาไว้พี่เนี่ยเนาะอุปเลเราเพนี่เนาะเพนี่เนี่ยแต่ว่าอีกคนเนี่ยจว่าพี่
He could have been a very rich coach builder, building coaches with his brother, but instead he got to have special blessing of working with Ellen White.
เอาไว้ที่ว่าถ้าคุยได้อย่างแล้วว่าก็มาตัวว่าได้ละจอคอมพิวเตอร์ว่าภาษาไหนก็วันนี้ว่าถ้าคุยได้กี่ละว่าตู้เราว่าเดี๋ยวจีว่าฮี
So when you have Sabbath challenges, often God wants to give you something better. So don't worry.
วันนี้เพที่ว่าก็เชื่อไหมเราถ้าคุยได้ก็แล้วตัวนี้อุบิเนี่ยเราถ้าว่าแต่สิ่งที่ใส่ว่าอุดรเกลือหิมะแล้วคือตาอุมุขสิยา
God will bless you.
เราส่งให้ดูความสำคัญ
Okay? God bless you each one. And it's so nice to see you all gathered together, worshiping the same Jesus, no matter if you're in Burma, Thailand, or America.
นั่นแหละใส่ว่าสู้ว่าดูแล้วมีกว่าดูพอเท่ากันแล้วหน้าตาจะมีกว่าแล้วก็เบียร์อยู่กว่าแค่อย่างนี้เนาะว่าได้คนเป็นมีกว่าแล้วหน้าใส่ชุดดีกว่าครับถ้าดูรูปบ้านเนาะไม่อยากสู้